Hey, what's up guys? So today is Tuesday, September the 15th, and we are going to continue on with GCF and LCM today. So last week on Friday, we taught you all how to do GCF, or greatest common factor. So what you should have done was completed this paper right here on the GCF column. So if you noticed on the column right before it, there's an LCM. Okay, now we asked you on Friday not to worry about that, don't think about that, we'll get to it. So today's the day we're getting to it. So we're going to be doing LCM today, and that is known as least common multiple. Okay, we're going to abbreviate that LCM because I don't want to say least common multiple 100 times in a class period. So we're just going to call it LCM so that you know what we mean. It means least common multiple. So what we're going to do is look at the same example problems that we looked at on Friday, except instead of doing the greatest common factor, we're going to do LCM. So let's break that down. So multiples are something that you have used for a very long time. So multiples is a fancy word for something you've been doing since you've learned to count. It's a fancy word for skip counting. So you did a lot of this right here in elementary school when you were learning your 5s and 10s and things like that. You would 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So what you were doing, you were skip counting. So all those numbers that you skip count are just multiples of 5 or multiples of 2 or multiples of 10 depending on what you're doing. So what we're going to do is find a common multiple. So we're going to give you two numbers. We're going to skip count or list out the multiples, and we're going to find a number that they have in common, just like we did with GCF. But instead of finding the biggest number, we're going to find the least number, or the smallest. So that's what we're going to work on today. So if you'll look at that page that you did on Friday, we're just going to do the other column, so it's not a new page. So we're going to look at the same examples. So we have 2 and 14. So here's the strategy I like to do is there are an infinite amount of multiples. You can skip count 2 until you can't, I don't know, until you die. You know, there's an infinite amount of multiples that you can use. So my strategy is do 5 and 5. So skip count 5 times and stop. Skip count 5 times and stop. And compare. If you don't have anything in common, skip count again. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with 2. So 2, why does your board look like that whenever I have 2? 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So I've skip counted 4 times, or 2, 5 times. So if you notice, these are all multiples of 2. And if you notice, I always start with the number that's given. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So now I'll skip count 14. Ms. Brewer will double check and make sure I'm not doing something, because 14 is kind of hard to skip count by. 14 is a weird number, so just double check.
5, 6, 7, 8.
So I skip counted 5 times on each, but if I look through both lists, I don't see any number that they share. So that means I got to continue on. So I come back up to 2 and start skip counting again. So I stopped at 10, so 12, 14. Now I'm going to stop there because I noticed something. Both of these, 14 is in both lists. So since 14 is in both lists, I can stop there because I found my least common multiple. So our LCM, or our least common multiple, is 14. So if you notice, the least common multiple is different than the GCF, so you can compare the two. So the GCF was 2, but the LCM is 14. So those are two different concepts. So that's all you're doing is skip counting, finding the multiples until you see one that's common in both lists. Okay? So we're going to do one more example together, and then I'm going to let you all do your work. So we're going to have 15 and 18. Same strategy. Now, I do 5 and 5, so I start with 15. 15, 30, 45, 60, and 75. Now 18, that's a tricky one again, but we're going to try to do it without a calculator. So 18, 36, 54, 72, and 90. You double checking me over there?
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Well,
Appreciate
those are
So,
not very friendly numbers.
These aren't friendly numbers, but if you need to, guys, it's okay to check yourself on a calculator, because that way, if you get off on one number, it's going to be very hard to get back on track. So,
Yes.
I look right here and I don't see anything in common, so I go back up to 15 and go again. Okay, well, I only had to guess one more time, because you should notice that you have two things in common. A 90, that's the first number that is in both lists. So since it is, that's our least common multiple, is 90. So again, you can compare your GCF and your LCM and find that they're not the same numbers. So that's all we're doing today, guys, is least common multiple. So what we want you to do is finish that page, okay? So that's 3 through 10. 3 through 10. All you're doing is filling in the LCM page. So remember, you're just making your list, you're finding your multiples or skip counting. And once you find a number that they share in common, you can stop, okay?
Make sure they do it on a separate page.
Yeah, I would definitely do it on a separate paper, because there's not a whole lot of room here. And if you try to get a bunch of these in there, it's going to look very messy and you're going to lose track of what you're doing. So give it a shot. If you have any questions, let us know, and make sure you put your answer on that Google form, and we will see you tomorrow. See you guys.